Hi, this is Suchi, and in our today's video, we will talk about float, boolean, and NoneType in Python. So let's start with float. So if we declare any variable's value with a decimal point number, then it will be considered as float automatically. For example, let's take temperature. So it could be 26.57 degrees Celsius. So it could be in negative also. Let's say minus 2.57. This could be something. So if we add some value with a decimal point, and if we will print the type of that variable, we can see it will be float. So you can see this belongs to float class. If we change this value to a positive float value, it will be again considered as a float value. Now, if we do this, just add the decimal point and do not add anything after that, it will still be considered as float. And we can also add 0. So this is how Python determines float. Let me zoom into it so that you can see it better. So we can have negative or positive values with decimal places, and Python will consider it as float. And we can change this precision to a longer number, and that won't affect the data type of this variable. So this is how Python determines float value. Now, while printing float, there is one function which is float, and this is used to convert other values into a float value. For example, if we have a float value in a string, let's say we have temperature in a string value, degree, for example, we have like this. Now, we want only this part to be converted into float. So how we can do that? As we already know the string slicing, so we can do this. We will convert this temp strings. We will slice this temp string. Okay, first let's slice this to take out the float part. So what we will do, we will take from 0 to 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So we will take from 0 to 5. Because this higher index will be excluded. So we can just print it and check whether we have taken out the correct part or not. And then we will run it. So as you can see, we have taken out the correct part. So we will use this inside a float function so that it can be converted into actual float, because it might be a float value, but it is in string data type. So if we check the type of this particular part, what we have sliced out, we can see that this is a string. But now we want to convert it into float. So what we will do is we will add this float function, and then we can check the data type. It will be nothing but a float. So just let me print it. And as you can see, it has become a float value. Similarly, we can consider an integer into float. We can convert integer value into float value in the similar way. Let's say I'm taking a random variable ABC, and I'm considering and I'm having another integer value, which is xyz. So I'm adding some integer value inside this. And now, as you can see, this is an integer. So we can print the type of xyz. And then again, we can print the type of ABC. So what will be the ABC value? Value of ABC will be xyz converted into a float. So ABC will become a float. Now you can see this is an integer and this is a float. So we can print xyz as well, and we can print ABC as well. So now you can see this is 145, which is an integer, and when we convert it into a float, then it becomes 145.0, which is a float. So this is how this float works in Python. Now let us talk about Bool. So for Boolean, we use the keyword Bool. And what are the Boolean values? Any value which is true or false is a Boolean value. So let me add one flag with a value true. Now remember this thing, that in Python, the true keyword starts with a capital T. Unlike Java or other programming languages, Python always use a capital T in the true keyword. So if this flag is considered as true, then what will happen is we will get a Boolean value. We will get a Boolean type variable. So this flag will be Boolean type. Let me print the flag as well as the type of the flag. So here you can see class Bool. So this flag is a variable of class Bool and it is having the value true. Same thing will go for false. If we add it false here, we can see this is a false. This is having a false value and the class is again Bool. So Boolean type of variable are having only these two values, false and true. Now we can easily convert any other value, any other data type into Boolean using this Bool function, this Bool method. So this Bool method takes one argument, which might be a string, which might be integer, which might be Boolean itself, or which might be any other expression apart from that. So, for example, if I say 10 is less than 5, so it will print a false. Let me assign it into condition, and if you print this thing, so we can see condition will be false and the type of this condition variable, cond variable will be Boolean. So let me show you this condition. The value of this condition is false and the type will be Bool. So this is how our Bool method works. Now, what about string or other values? Now for string, if we pass any value, any string, let it be numerical value, let it be alphanumeric value or alphabets, whatever we pass here. Let me pass one. And we have to print it. So once we add any string value here, any non-empty string value, it will be giving us true. It could be 1, it could be 0, it could be true, it could be false. It doesn't matter. But as it is a non-empty string value, it could be ABC, it could be only single alphabet, it could be multiple alphabets, whatever it is, it will give us a true value. It could be only numbers. In all these instances, it will only give us true values. So as you can see, any string value which is non-empty will be a true, will be having a boolean value true. Now, then when a string value will be false, you can see that we have written string false into a string, inside a string, but it is considering it as a boolean true. So now when it will be false, it will be false only if we add an empty string. So if we print this bool of an empty string means there will be no characters, it will be just opening and ending of the string, so it will return us a false. So as you can see, any string value which is non-empty will return a true, and any string value which is only the empty string will be returning false. Now if we add, now for integers, now let's consider for integers. For integers it is different. If we add a 0, it will be returning us false, and if we add 1, it will return, if we add any non-zero value, it will return a true. So let me copy an integer. For negative integer, any negative value, and for any positive value rather than 0, it could be 1, it could be 2, it could be anything. So if we add any positive value, let me also add -1 here. Now, in this scenario, apart from 0, all other values will return true. Negative values, positive values. No, any non-zero integer value will be returning a true for bool operation. So you can see for -85 it is returning true. For -1 also it is returning true because these are non-zero values. Now for 0 it is returning a false. And for 475 this is returning true. So any non-zero value for an integer, it will return a true for a bool function, and any 0, only the 0 will return the false. Now let us consider float. So what about float? If we consider float and if we print it, as you can guess, the same rule applies. If the float value is 0, then only it will return false, and any non-zero value will return a true. So same logic goes for integer and float. Now let us consider, okay, for other data types like list, tuple, and set, dictionary, all these things we are going to discuss later, but let me tell you, any empty list, any empty tuple, any empty dictionary, any empty set will give us a value, boolean value of false, and if it is having at least one element, it will not return a false, it will return true. I can show you here, but we will go into more details for those data types in our latter part of this video course. So let me show. For now, do not worry about the syntax. Just look into this. So, and also for NoneType variable, also it will be returning a false. So if you look into this, this is actually a syntax of list, and this is actually empty list. This is empty set or empty dictionary. This is empty tuple. And if we have something like this, let's say this is a list, this is a set, do not worry about this syntax, just look into this. So all these are having at least one element. That is why these will return us true. But this first three lines, these will return us false, because these are having empty list, empty set, empty tuple. So let me run this cell, and you can see the first three are returning false and the last four are returning true. So at least one element, if the data type is having, it will return true, otherwise it will return false. And then we will talk about the NoneType. So NoneType is very simple. NoneType means no value. NoneType means no value. So if any variable is assigned as none, it means that variable does not have any value, or it is just equivalent to null. So let me call I'm just naming it randomly. So I have named the variable as no value variable, and I'm just assigning none to it. So if we will print the type of this variable, it will be NoneType. So let me print it. As you can see, this is NoneType. But if we try to print this variable, what will be printed? So if we will print this variable, there will be none. As you can see, this is none is printed. But if we just simply run this, we can't see any output because this is returning none. So if we explicitly set print statement, we can see a none here. Because this variable's value is also none, this variable type is also NoneType. So this is how NoneType works, and the boolean value of any NoneType variable is false. As you can see, the boolean value for the NoneType variable is false. We can check this variable also instead of assigning none directly. So as you can see, this is false. So any variable which is assigned to none, it will be a NoneType variable, and the value will also be none. And if we try to convert it into boolean, it will be false. So these are the basic data types we have discussed. These are the most commonly used data types. We will discuss the derived data types in our upcoming videos. Till then, keep implementing and keep learning. Thank you for watching this video.